Welcome, one and all, to Wednesday Night String Theory. Ow! We're here back again after the holidays. Hope you guys had a great and restful holiday season. We want to have a big shout out to all of our partners, Boucher Guitars, of course, Robin, Guillaume, Julian, Diane, the whole gang up in Quebec, who are. There seems to be a Domino's pizza ad playing in the background, and Yamaha Canada, K&K Sound, G&G Music and Annie Ganesh, Glencoe Hotel, thank you very much. Stephen McNeil of Fantasy Music, Alvarez Yeri, St. Louis Music, thank you. Chris Meikle for all the great guitars he's been sending us. Recording King, good Lord, I'm just fresh back after how many weeks off? 2 or 3?
2.
It feels like a year.
2.
Anyhow, we're very glad to be back with you here on String Theory. Wednesday night, still my favorite night of the week. Cheers to you and a happy new year, and let's hope that 2021's a better year. So there we go, boys and girls. We're very glad to be back here with you, and I want to make a couple of shout outs here to James Martin Guitars over in Ireland, which we're still waiting for a guitar from them, and it should be very exciting when that comes here. And also, my good buddy over in Sweden, Mr. Patrick Lundgren, just started a major channel over there, which he asked me to help him name. So I said, use Flat Pick Nation. By God, he did. And I'm wearing his shirt here. And Patrick is an incredibly gifted young guitar player that I met online 5 or 6 years ago when he was... I'm going to tell this story and embarrass him. 5 or 6 years ago, I got a message from him out of the blue. He was a fan of my playing, and he was working with autistic children. And there was a little boy that he worked with who was completely unapproachable, couldn't be touched, he would just freak out if anything happened like that, and nothing seemed to calm this child. And Patrick sent me a video of this little boy at a table, and Patrick had put one of my songs on YouTube on an iPad and laid it on the table in front of this little boy, and the little boy laid his head on the iPad and was completely calm the whole time he was listening to me. And so it became a way for Patrick to communicate with the little guy, and I felt I was very honored by that, and incredibly moved. And at that time, Patrick was just becoming a flat picker, and I worked with him for a long time. We sent videos back and forth, and he always was just the greatest. Had such a drive for it, and now not only is he a great guitar player, but he's teaching people on YouTube about playing, and his channel, Flat Pick Nation, go check it out, because it's really cool, and he's really cool. He's a wonderful guy, family guy. They've just had a baby, not just recently, and a little girl, and it's just a great thing. And I love to see guys succeeding, especially on here. YouTube is a great place for all of us. Now that we really can't travel anymore and things don't seem to be getting that much better anytime soon. But don't care, because we're all together here at least. The next thing I want to talk about before we start the show proper is I want to make mention of a tremendous loss we had over the holidays. On Christmas Day, Tony Rice passed away. Suddenly, I guess, in his kitchen making his coffee, and the loss of that man is, even though he had been out of the scene for close to a decade and had retired and couldn't play or sing anymore due to health reasons, losing him is no easier because of that. The man was One of the greatest innovators of acoustic guitar that ever lived, and there'll never really be another one like him because he kind of did it all. And the people that came after him, of course, as in all music, are just building upon the foundation that he laid. The same way that all banjo players look at Earl Scruggs and all mandolin players look at Bill Monroe, and on it goes. His contribution is just immeasurable. There's no way to even measure it. And so I just wanted to say that and give my condolences to all his fans, of which I am one and was one for most of my life. And I got to meet him a couple times, very briefly. It wasn't the most incredible thing that ever happened. He was a very quiet, reserved guy, and but his music and his playing were not quiet and reserved. He was an absolute giant among musicians. So here's to Tony Rice and all the people that love him and all the people that try to play like him. Keep on trying. So there we go. There's all the business out of the way. I'm sure you have all kinds of questions that have been building up in your little brains and minds, as mine has been my little brain and mind has been dreading the moment when they flood me. Because I know my audience is crazy, as I am. So this is good. We're all together again in the same virtual room. So Ginger, the lovely Ginger, is in the house.
Is that supposed to be cheering?
Yes.
Because it sounds like kind of heavy, creepy breathing.
Oh. Well, you've heard enough of that from me in the last few years. And you are.
And you?
And yes. So the lovely Ginger's in the house, of course. And what do you got over there?
All kinds of things.
Oh, Jesus.
So many things. We're going to start with Cam. You got a super chat question.
Cam McMaster, Happy New Year, buddy.
He says, given the events in DC at the moment, my question is, do you guys have a spare bedroom? How much will it cost to rent? # I'm potty trained.
Yeah, come on up, buddy. Don't stay down there in that shit. I'm sorry about that. I mean, what are you going to do? It is what it is, and, everyone's just going to have to try to survive it. And it is what it is. It can't be lasting much longer. Another 14 days, I guess. So,
One can hope.
Yeah, hopefully. I'm saying a silent prayer to the cosmos for all of you down there on both sides of the fence. Alrighty, who's next?
Jeff Gallant.
Jeff Gallant.
Says, I have an electric guitar that has the name brand Crafter. Have you ever heard of this brand having an acoustic guitar?
You say Crafter?
Yes.
Yes, Crafter is a Korean company. 15 years ago, 20 years ago, they put out a very large series of acoustic guitars that were very impressive. Most of them were highly ornate. They were themed guitars, meaning that, if you liked salmon fishing, there's a chance that there was a Crafter guitar where the inlays were about fish, and or all sorts of things. I owned several of them because I just liked the way they looked, and they sounded really, really good. And they usually came with Fishman, the highest end Fishman pickups you could get. They weren't cheap. You were going to pay $1,000 for one at least, and that was 15 years ago. To my knowledge, they still build guitars, I think. I'm not sure. I haven't really seen... I've seen Crafters, but the ones that I've seen appear to be not as fancy as they once were. They used to be really works of art and mass-produced, of course, in a factory, which made them even more impressive because highly ornate guitars made in factories usually have a lot of flaws, and these guitars didn't. They were really well built. So yeah, Crafter is a good name. I think if you could find an old Crafter that stood the test of time, wasn't falling apart, and and I think they probably would have aged well. I think most of them were laminates, back in size, most likely. I believe most of them were. Some of the high-end ones probably weren't. But, yeah, crafter. Who's next? Fill up that bingo card, guy.
I don't know if they're doing bingo tonight. I don't know. Maybe. Caper Away.
Caper Away.
Have you tried the new Yamaha steel string silent guitars? Happy New Year.
I have not tried a new one. I used to own one of their silent guitars. It was a gift to me from one of the heads of Yamaha that came over from Japan. The year that I played on the ECMAs with Matt Anderson. That year. I don't know what year that was. And they brought me one from Japan. And the guy came into the shop where I was doing a clinic there in PEI for the ECMAs for Yamaha at the Long and McQuaid. And this troop of Japanese businessmen walked in. 5 guys they were sort of in a, what do you call that? Chevron kind of shape. With the guy at the front and the 2 guys on either side, all dressed in black and white shirts and very proper. And the guy in the middle was the main guy. And he walked up to me with this funny little black case, and he looked at me and said, Cormier-san. And he bowed, and he gave me this guitar. And I bowed and took the guitar, and I bowed again 2 or 3 times. And it was really quite emotional, actually, that they thought enough of what I was doing for the company at that time to do that. But I thought that was amazing. Then they stood there the whole time and watched me put this thing together, and I plugged it in and played it, and it was freaking brilliant. I don't know, I suspect Yamaha, as you know, I'm a huge fan of Yamaha, and I push their products as I do a lot of other things on here. And Terry Hume, our regional guy, and Fantasy Music in Halifax is a major dealer of Yamaha, high-end Yamaha. That company continually improves. The things that they were doing 20 years ago in that vein are most likely today 50% better. So I'm quite excited actually to try a new silent guitar. I'm supposed to be reviewing a silent guitar and a silent violin for Yamaha quite soon. As soon as I get my hands on one, I have to review this new little Yamaha acoustic amp, which is really cool. I got it hooked up the other day before Christmas there, and tried it out here in the room, and it was a really nice little amp. So it was the one that was the prize in our Christmas giveaway. And so that's going to be reviewed. And as soon as I get the other silent instruments, we will review those as well. So keep your eyes open for a guitar stuff with John that features the Yamaha silent guitar, because I can almost guarantee you that I will be doing one. They really are cool. They're great instruments and so roadworthy. Like, they're indestructible. They're just a stick of wood with a
String?
No. There's strings. Polycarbonate is what word I'm looking for. Just a polycarbonate frame against a really, high-end piece of center body wood, and the neck and strings, and there's nothing to go wrong with them. So, yeah, really cool instruments. Who's next?
Larry Rindress.
It's Rindress.
Rindress?
Yes, I just found that out.
Okay, Rindress it is. Have you played with Red Shea?
I wish. I have not played with Red Shea. I think that Red Shea knew about me. I know that John Stockfish knew about me through my buddy Dave Gunning. Met John Stockfish in a bar in British Columbia, and spoke to him at length about a lot of things. And John, that would be Lightfoot's bass player, of course, in the original trio, him and Red Shea. But I never did meet Red, and Red was living north of Toronto when he died. And I never did. I know lots of people who knew him, and he was a tremendous man. Apparently, just a really good guy. He was a Jehovah's Witness, as far as I know, which might have been a little straining for him being around guys like Lightfoot in the '60s and '70s, and everybody was doing drugs and going crazy. But yeah, he was. There's an example. Like as far as I'm concerned, Red Shea was our Tony Rice. Red Shea to Canadians was the first of his kind. He played acoustic guitar in ways that no one had ever thought of, and even to this day, when you listen to that old stuff that he did with Lightfoot, his playing was unbelievable. It was, and we still can't really figure it out. I had to take apart a lot of his playing for the Long River album, and it was really, really difficult to do. It's not something I would recommend if you if you're low on patience, is to try to take apart things that Red Shea played, because the man was a genius. So, yeah, the great loss that we lost him. But he lived a nice long life, and he played a lot of music, and he worked with Tommy Hunter for the whole end of his career, which was cool. It was a nice gig for him to have right there in Toronto. And I guess Tommy Hunter was a really good guy to work for as well. So, yeah, I never did meet him, but I sure do know his music. No question about that.
Next up is Mark Mclennan.
Mark Mclennan. Know that name?
Says, I'm chatting and watching from Woodstock, Ontario, formerly of Scottsburn, Nova Scotia.
Sweet.
I'm getting email from Zagger Guitars in the U.S. They look pretty good. Any comments?
I don't know about them. I've heard the name. Is that Zagar or ER?
ER.
I want to look them up tonight and see what they're about. So they're sending you solicitations. That's interesting. Maybe I'll just call them up and say, "How about send one on there, big boys? Let's see what you got. Bring it." How about that? Eh? We'll show them. Don't mess with string theory. You'll end up on a guitar.
I don't think they ever were messing with string theory.
Well, you mess with my peeps, you mess with me. Ow. Okay, who's next?
Turn slowly. A. Harvey Robbins.
A. Harvey Robbins.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if it's like a Harvey or...
Okay.
I don't know.
Well, that's somebody I don't know.
Do you use compression? And if so, what compressor software do you use?
I use compression all the time, but you have to know how to use it. You can't just... People overuse compression, and they use it too violently on a lot of recordings. There's no need to ever hear compression. Compression is only to smooth something slightly so that it has a life force to it. If you use compression to kill something so it can't raise above that ceiling, it sounds like shit. So you got to really know how to use compressors. It doesn't matter what kind of compressor you have if you don't know how to set it. So my favorite compressor that I use and have used for 25 years is actually a Renaissance wave shell. The Renaissance compressors. And I also use an H-Comp that I like a lot. And there's a couple of other ones I use, but the Renaissance one to me, to this day, and it's an old compressor. It's been around for 20 years. It sounds the most vintage of any compressor that I've ever used, and it's the least invasive in a sonic image. You can use it on individual tracks without its byproduct being noticed quickly or even at all by the listener. It just makes everything real warm and fat and smooth. And if you set it right, if you crush things with a compressor, it doesn't matter what you're using. It'll just sound like crap. So you really have to mess with that. One of the first things I can tell you is if you have questions about compression, is if you have a good enough compressor that you can watch your reduction gauges, so you can see if you can put a hold on that gauge so you can see how far it pushes something down, and then you can take note of that. You don't ever want to decrease anything by more than about 3 dB. That's it. If it goes more than that, you hear it. And also, your ratios have a lot to do with how compression sounds. So if you put a really, you put a really high ratio on something, it's going to squash the crap out of it, right? I use about 2.75 to 1, usually, on most things. On bass, I go about 325 to 1. And so all of these things, this is probably bullshit to most people listening, right? Because they don't use compressors like that. But that's what I've done. That's what I do in the past, and I've done all my records with that type of compression on them, and